because there are people who would have this type of script when they go for a talk. There are people prefer to have a full script like that, and then there are people who like write very rough form on the napkins or whatever. so it is also good lah. I mean, for us that we would be so clear about this, and it's interesting also the questions are quite interesting.
Okay.
Oh, 8 o'clock already.
Yeah. Okay. So we will go in. Okay, so welcome to our first Equator College webinar, a design conversation with the powerhouse of the creatives. So thank you for joining us this evening. I hope this session will inspire all of you. With us this evening is Lefty and Eng Huat, who are no stranger to the comic world. So let me introduce briefly before I pass to them to introduce themselves. So my name is Chun Wei. I'm the Dean of Studies and also lecturers at Equator College. So first, Lefty with 25 years of experience in the comic industry and has been working with multi-international company in Singapore and Shanghai. He is also responsible for designing some of the wireframe mural all around Georgetown, and also the bus stop around Pulau Tikus, right? On the other hand, Eng Huat, who started his comic career under Gempak publication and was first offered a job penciling the newest incarnation of the Doom Patrol for DC. From there, he went on to work with Marvel, working on Silver Surfer and Ghost Rider. So it is an honor to have both of you in the same webinar.
Yep.
So perhaps you guys can further introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay.
Lefty first.
Yeah. So we start with Lefty.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and I started when I was 5. So you sort of know how old I am. I started working at 5. And I am, well, if you're talking about Eng Huat is the international guy, I guess I'm sort of the regional guy now. Initially, I was the local guy, and then because of works that I was involved in Singapore and also in Shanghai, that I get to work with the international platforms and also in the US. While I was working in Singapore, our company is linked to the US comic company. So yeah, it's generally that's how we get to work with other countries' comic industry. And when I was in Shanghai, I was actually teaming up with Eng Huat for the webcomic market department in animation studio. So we have it was a great time actually. It's one of the highlights of my life because we get to explore Shanghai together, and then we also have a very long, extensive time when we were there. For me, is a year plus, and during that time we talk. We have so much discussion about comics and the industry and the techniques and everything, and also to understand the market in China. And when I was in KL, I worked with Gempak. If you all know, currently it's called Kadokawa Gempak Star, and it was, I believe it is still the best, a very complete comic publication system or company in Malaysia. This is generally my involvement in the comic industry. Yeah. Oh, that's hear it from Eng Huat.
Oh, I start working after graduate high school straight away. But my parents, my mother actually planning on sending me to art school, to MIA, and because our financial situation, then I need to went to school and also doing part-time job at the weekend simultaneously. So I've been doing that. Last time I'm working as a comic assistant in PJ. So I live in KL. So like after every week after Friday after school, then I take a bus to PJ and stay there for 2 nights, and then work as a comic assistant, and then came back on Sunday and then go back to school. But after like 2 months or 2 or 3 months, I cannot tahan. There's no time to do homework, and there's no time to do work in the work assignment that they give you. So I quit. I have no choice. I quit MIA and then go straight to working as assistant for 4 or 5 years. And then after that, the studio didn't work out because that time our books are not selling that good. And then after that, I went to work as a freelance for a company in Taiwan, but I stay in Malaysia. That time, web comic is quite popular. Actually, right now it's the second wave. There's like 10 or 15 years ago, there's the first wave of web comics that time. So I, besides working for that, and then Gembak came out, and then I do some covers and comics for Gembak. And after that, I think there's a couple of freelance jobs in the middle of somewhere, but mostly in 2000, I got as fortunately meet the editor in from DC. That time they were looking for artists to do their reboot of the Doom Patrol. So we met in Hong Kong that time. I give him my portfolio, and he review it and say quite interesting. And then he went back to the States and sent me some sample to work on it to see how long did that for me to do a page or something. And then I do the pages, and then look at it and say, okay, then I got a job. So from there, after Doom Patrol, and then Batman and JLA, and then a couple of years after that, went to Marvel and do the other books. And then I'm doing that for 13 years nonstop. And then I kind of like try to step down a bit because it's very exhausting, like doing every month. So landed opportunity to go to Shanghai, work with Lefty, and do some exploring. China is a very new market for us, and we didn't know anything about the market, and try to understand it and see if we can do anything else than the stuff that we already have done. So this year, actually last year, they opened a branch in Penang. So I came back with my wife. So we located here in Penang.
Right, thank you. So you guys have been from Malaysia, to Shanghai. The audience, I bet the audience are bigger in China, right?
Much
So
bigger.
what are the differences? What are the differences if you were to compare the comic that you publish over here and in China? What are the differences or the demand that people want in China?
I think it's the platform that is very different, because the environment here in Malaysia or in Southeast Asia, we are still very much reading books, or even though we would occasionally browse online comics. I'm sure if like the students, there are a lot of them read online comics, but it is not. But those mostly they are reading uncopyrighted, like pirated comics of whatever that is popular now, or manga, mainly manga. But in China, because when this comic scene started off, it is already it's already an internet age. So they started off reading comics online, and because of the government restriction at the time, they read a lot. Most of the comics online are original comics that they created over there. So that's actually a very good thing, because it pushed the industry up very quickly, and people over there, they are first exposed already to their local comics and the acceptance of their local comics titles. So they won't be like comparing. It's for, let's say, for us here in Malaysia, a lot of people, they started off reading a physical book and then only transfer to online. During that time, of course, they would continue to search for what they have been reading, which is a lot of them let's say manga is Japanese product, and some of them, the younger ones, well, maybe they would go into like Gempar's product, X Ventures and all that. But a lot of them, they are still when they want to read, they would automatically look for manga or for overseas products. So, but in China, it's very different. They mostly look at the local products, local titles, local creations, which I think is quite healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe you can add some more to it.
And also because of the cultural revolution, they skip like 20 years of interacting with the world. So you can expect, like, even Star Wars is not that popular in.
That is something we are so surprised when we were there. It's like we were so excited when we were so excited talking about Star Wars. They are like,
yeah. Well, for them it's like, how come you? For them it's like Star Wars. It's like Citizen Kane, maybe for them.
Classic. It's like classic.
Yeah, classic. And then classic.
They cannot relate to.
Yeah, somehow it gone for a while and then come back. Is it any? So the viewer, the audience that still watching comic is very young. It's very young. So mostly there were manga dominated market. if you went to their local comic convention, you will see huge amount of creators doing mangas.
Right.
But saying that, because of the population is that huge, a lot of genre, a lot of like Western content or horror, they still got their own audience because of the market is that huge. Even like 1% is enough for to survive.
Yeah, I think their 1% is like probably one country, any of the Asian countries' population.
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
So for them, and because they don't really publish physical books, everything is online. You can think as views is profit. As much as like YouTube actually, you put YouTube is video based, and then online comic is like a YouTube version of books. The more likes you have, and then your content will be noticed by companies, and company will make it into product. That's how they make money.
Okay, great, very good insight. Okay, so we go back to the basics, right? Since young, Asian parents are always dream that their children would become a doctor, lawyer, an engineer. I think every one of us had that, right? So, what is your parent reaction when you tell them that you wanted to do comic professionally?
For me, I never tell them actually. That's the case. So that's my case because even though I'm in this line, but I started off in the design industry. I started off in the advertising and design industry, and comics has always been the sideline for me because, especially when I first started off in the 90s, comics is, if I tell my parents I'm going to be a comic book artist, I don't know, it will be a tragedy might happen in the family. But they are nice enough to encourage me to do it as a hobby. So they did not stop me from drawing. So so I started off working in advertising industry, and at my free time I draw comics. And then when finally I found a job in a comic company to be the art director, to be able to package their books, and because of my involved in the industry, so they hired me to do that as well as to help them to edit or to give input for them in their publications. So I've always been in that way. That's why for the longest time, my parents only know that I'm doing design. It's okay. It's doing design. It's not doing. So I managed to con myself into the line for the longest time.
For me, I think for my parents, they will think like as long as you're not doing anything illegal. And also with my grade in school, if I told him I want to be a doctor or a lawyer, they will say like, who are you kidding? So drawing is they don't have much knowledge about at that time job that require drawing is not that many. They only think like, if you like to draw, then you go to advertising. That's how they imagine. So in art school, I also study advertising.
Yeah. We our time. Yeah, you are. I mean, of course, you are much younger, but during the 90s or the early millennial era, it is very difficult to go into comics industry. My time, I was so early that I was having discussion with, at the time is Gempa is not even set up yet. We were having discussion about what to do, that early ancient time. So it is it's very difficult to become a comic book artist at that time.
But if you ask the same question, if you ask the same question right now to parents or their child, they will add a YouTuber in the list.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So so since when you realized that you wanted to become a comic artist, like what actually triggers you to go into the comic industry?
For myself, it is because storytelling. I like to do storytelling, and I am more of I like simple things in life, and when I read comics, I find it's so good to express your story because you have words and pictures combined together, and with design layout put into it. Like each page, you need to design the page properly to let people understand your story, and you can do all that by yourself. That's why I love about it. I love movies, I love animation, but I think if you, because the process is so complicated, and the other genre. So that's why from the beginning I already chosen the path of comics because I think it's simpler to get the story out. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Like for me, I think from the beginning I only know I like to draw. I don't even know I like the story or creating story yet. I think those kind of stuff I really need times to understand, and because at the beginning you need something simple, like Julian say, you have a simple ambitious that I like to draw, and then when you went into the industry, then you learn a lot of stuff, even more stuff on the way. Then you will understand how to pick the things that you can develop, because some artists, they like to draw, but they don't want to learn about storytelling. So as the longer I've been into the industry, the more I like to figure out how the storytelling really works. And then the more you learn, the more you appreciate, and then the passion become greater, I think.
Yeah. So from this, I can say that in comic industry, it's not entirely on your drawing. It's also lots of time. It also comes from your storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So without the storytelling, I think the drawing would be very pointless, right?
Yeah, because
that's true.
Especially right now with all the new like Photoshop and other 3D platform, for someone to manipulate or create a beautiful painting is not that hard. Not like they used to like draw everything on paper. You have to learn a lot of stuff. Right now, you have a lot of tools to help you with that. But storytelling is a very you can't say you have a tool or a software to help you create interesting story. That part you have to come in your experience.
Yeah, that's true. And but there are different type of well, maybe for the students, there are different types of comic book artists. There are those who are writer artists, or there are those who just want to be a craftsman, and they do great works, but they collaborate with writers, you see. So there's no wrong or right. It's anybody's preferences. Like we have Eng Huat, our very popular Malaysian artist that's very popular overseas, and many of his works he is collaborate with a writer. But maybe this is also the how it works overseas in America. Like Eng Huat also has been working with a script for more than 10 years, 13 years, 14 years. Initially, I still remember when he started working with DC, and I'm so curious. I asked him, "Hey, can I have a look at the script?" When I look at the script, I was it's so difficult. From all the words that they describe, and you have to turn it into visual. It is not an easy job. So yeah, there's different ways of doing things. There's different type of comic book artists as well.
Yeah, as I think as time goes by, like what you have said from just now, like from what we do reading from books to what the people in China do reading from web. So do you think comic artists too need to be multidisciplined? Multidiscipline as in I have to know doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or I have to have awareness of this and that. With either convergence with the animation or with the technology. Like for example, I remember Julian for Lefty. So remember that we did one motion comic for your Jimmy Germs.
Yeah, man. Thanks to you, man.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the earliest, I could say one of the earliest Malaysian motion comic, right? That we work on the animation on certain parts and the sound.
Yeah.
Right. So do you think this kind of things is important?
I'm thinking about this is like if you are a singer, you are a songwriter. If you are good looking, it helps, you see. But luckily we are because we are artists and we are more behind the scenes. We do not have to be if you don't know much about anything else except drawing, you still be okay. But it does help if you have a better edge lah. If you have other knowledge, let's say you know a bit of animation, you know a bit of this and that, then it helps lah. But not necessarily not necessarily. If you could find someone to help you, like for instance, let's say like Hellboy's creator Mike Mignola, when I listened to his interview, he said a lot of time he technical stuff he just do not know that much, but his wife is helping out on business or whatever technical things. Help him to scan, help him to do his accounting and everything. So yeah, it helps, but it also good if unless you can find someone to help you, then it's fine. Like what I found in you when I was doing the Jimmy Jim thing, and I have friends like you who will be able to chip in and we collaborate. So yeah, that helps.
Well, I think it's the same for every person that want to learn anything. At the beginning, you always want to have everything in your possession. If you learn drawing, you need to know, or you want to try every pen in the market, every paper in the market, and see what fits your requirement. And then later on, after experience, years of experience, then you will find yourself letting go a lot of things. and keep the things that you really need. I think that's the process, because you can't have try to because creating something needs time and a lot of times, a lot of layering the structure. There's not much time for you to make it. You don't want to make the process even harder. You need to confine into like simple stuff, and then put your mind into more important aspect.
Yeah, simplify, focus and simplify.
Yeah, that's very true. So what is the biggest challenge that you have faced this far?
If you are talking about the new environment and what we have to do nowadays, I think the additional things that we cannot avoid is the social media and reaching out to the people online and all that. It is crucial. It is very. It gives you a lot of good result. I mean, because you'll be able to reach out to people when you're staying at home. But having said that, it is still a task. It is not like if people are just leisurely browsing and chit chatting with people is a different thing. But if once you it's part of your job to distribute or to expose your work or to reach out to people, then it has become quite challenging. As in, it's become a task now. So it is something that I'm still struggling and finding out a way to do it, so that I don't feel so tiring. Sometimes you want to post something and you want to write something. It is not as easy as I thought.
Yeah. Especially right now with all the social media platform, you can post your work. I try to minimize as much as possible, because a lot of time when you're drawing, you try to focus and you're really in your zone. You try not to let something distract you. I think right now even harder, as I work in the office, a lot of people try. You try to like schedule it when you'll be doing like social informing people and all that stuff, and other time you need to just focus on your work.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's true with all these different kind of media platform, and especially when there are lots of mobile apps that comes into this industry, right? Like I think is it Line, even like chatting apps like Line or WeChat, they have their own comic inside, right?
Correct.
Yes,
another thing that I need to cope is also with technology, because technology, online technology and things like that, they are changing so quickly, changing very quickly. So it's fun. It's fun. Is it? We are living in the most interesting of time, but you need to cope with learning lah.
You can't have this feeling of am I missing out something? You can't always have this. Am I missing out something that I really need to fulfill? And if you keep having this thought, and then like every new platform after Instagram, there will be another TikTok, and add on a lot of stuff. You can't like handle all this kind of thing.
and because we started off when internet is not that common, comparing to the younger generation where when they started off drawing, it's same case like what China is facing. It's like when they first started, they already have internet. So their attitude in drawing and showing their work online is natural. You see. So to them, it is natural. I mean, I draw and then I show on the internet. That's totally normal. But for my case, I always think that I mean, it's a bit sort of like a bit spicy, to like always want to show my things. You know, it's like, hey, I have this kind of, sometimes I have this kind of feeling. It's like, everything like want to show. I have this feeling like, I try to avoid have the kind of feeling that it's like want to show off there. So it's a balance. It's a balance.
Yeah, I think with what is happening with the apps, I think more and more apps is coming into the market. Like for example, you have Makefire, you have Marvel Unlimited, that you get people to subscribe, and there are also lots of other comic apps like Protanopia. If you heard of it, it's a motion comic apps that this guy has produced, and all these things that is coming in. So what would you look at, like how the world has changed over time? How do you see or expect the way comic will evolve in the near future? Yeah, especially now you have 360 things, 360 things that is going on. You have VR, you have all this augmented reality. So, would you think that all these things would actually affect the way comic will be produced in the near future?
For my observation is not it won't affect that much now, because comic is a very simple platform. The most I think until now that you could go mainly for you to read and to understand the story. What you need is still go back to the basic of words and pictures. So the most it could go would be like what it is happening now on the web comics, where it goes as a scroll. You just scroll. Instead of, we used to have page and we could design panels in the page, but now a lot of it is just a panel and panel and panel and panel. You just keep on scrolling and you just from top to bottom. So but I like, even though we explore those type of semi-animated type of comics, if we have sound effects,
motion
comics, yeah. I think because the cost is very high for one thing, and and it has become not so justifiable. I think so far, if you want to go to that extent, you might as well. You will become a very embarrassed. Not embarrassing, but it's a bit odd situation whether you become a cheap production of animation. So after a while, people still come back to basic of comics with words and pictures. The most is that they have some simple effects, like on web comics, like on webtoons or whatever. Sometimes you have some sound effects inside there, or simple animation like lightning strikes or whatever. But it's kept to the minimal.
I think comic itself have in the future it might blend into a lot of stuff as comic as a very old media, like picture and words. It's very primitive, and the simplest way to decide like caveman drawing. Comics like that is so simple that it's you can't really kill it because it's very fundamental of storytelling. I think they only would evolve into like they tried motion comic, but it didn't really quite take off. And probably in the future, you might went and try like VR and see if that works. But at the end, this media will not vanish. I think it will live on into other medium. But the important thing is the creator itself. They need to adapt the environment wherever it is. Maybe in what kind of environment or subject they need to explore with it.
I think I've seen another culture in comics is that if we look at early 2000, there are lots of like Marvel superheroes, even the late 90s, DC superheroes like Batman that turns into movies and all these things. But towards the middle of the 2000, you started to have a lots of all these Hollywood films that is based on a comic that you never heard before. Like Kick-Ass, you never heard of the comic, but it's actually based on the comic. And Wanted also, right? Wanted also based on comic, but you have never seen the comic. Loser is also based on the comic, but you have never known about. So, what is that kind of things? What is that kind of culture that is happening? Is it? Yeah.
It's well, because comics, even though comics is a very good way for you to tell your story. So it is actually quite natural that you can adapt a comics to a movie or a TV series. It is really a very natural transition. So even from the beginning, I already from the as early as when I first started, I already anticipated and waiting for people to adapt comics into movies. Because movies is heavily depends on visual and sound, while comics is visual and word. So comics itself, it has already been like a shooting board, a storyboard to people. That's why when I was working in Singapore, what we are doing, we are producing comics, but we are looking at it as an intellectual property already. This is early 2000. We are looking at it as an intellectual property to be able to package it and present it and propose it to the Hollywood market. So nowadays, when you do a comic, a lot of people would have in mind that they are aiming further than just a published book, or a web comic. Not only Hollywood, in Korea, the web comics, so many of their web comics is already successfully adapted into blockbusters. So this is become another exit for comic book creation. Sometimes you don't have to you don't have to be your works. It may not be so popular as in Spider-Man or Iron Man and all that. But if it's a good story, and sometimes if it's it can when the filmmaker see your work, that it can become an even bigger property when it was transfer is transferred into a movie. Then they will work with you, and well, that's another different level of opportunity altogether. Like this uh, this Scottish gentleman, Mark Millar, he knows, he also see this, and then he created a lot of works that before it even popular as a comic book, it's already been bought up and turned into movie. Like what you mentioned just now, like Wanted. Wanted is also Mark Millar's work. Kingsman. Kingsman, we're not even familiar with the comics. It's already a blockbuster, and there are a lot of his work that is now still in production coming out next. So this is another way now. So I'm thinking is that nowadays comic book market is great. It's even better than before, because comic book market no longer just depends on the sales of your book. It is actually you are creating an intellectual property. You're not merely a comic book artist drawing pages and pages of artwork and hoping it will be printed into a book. No, not anymore. It's a game changer when internet comes. So it's very exciting time.
But I have another question. If you guys can think about, right at this like 10 or 15 years, adapting comics into movies are very popular, but mostly in US. You can't see any. The trend didn't like come to Asia. You didn't see any Asia comic that even they have like adapted Asian manga or comic into movie. It will be a one shot usually. The hype didn't take off here or anywhere else besides in US. So I think it's partly is a culture thing, partly.
Yeah.
But I can't really like analyze why is it. But it's a very interesting topic to further discuss.
Yeah. I think this is quite an interesting thing, because there has been debate that Hollywood might be drained of content, and looking for comics as a new mean of content creation and things like that, right? So yeah, time flies. So let's say if we have people or audience over here who are interested to become the next comic artist, what would be the best advice from the both of you?
For myself, is just do it. You have to just do it. First of all, there is no shortcut. Having said that, it is so much easier nowadays because of the internet. You can always show your works online at your own leisure, as long as you are able to manage or to create interest online. Your works will run. Nowadays with internet, you are directly in touch, knowing your audience, knowing your readers, and even become friends with them, chat with them on a daily basis. create a relationship with them and all that. Unlike before, when you say, oh, I want to be a comic artist, but it is so difficult to ask to have the publisher publish my book. No more excuses like that, huh? You want to be a comic book artist, draw and pose, and no more talking already. You just do it, You do it, you post it up. If you're good, you're good. If you're not, go back, try again. Or it's a wonderful time. Everybody is on the same platform now.
But in the publication era, like the 80s, if you want to become a comic book artist, the title of comic book artist, you need to reach certain qualification. You need to make a living out of it. That's the first qualification, or produce at least 3 books that is came out from the market. So having a lot of likes cannot put bread on the table. So I think for nowadays there's the huge amount of competition to make a living out of drawing or being a comic artist. I think it's some even though your stuff can reach a lot of people, a lot of audience, but you still need to make a profit or have this your stuff being recognized by the market or company is really hard. I think it's hard as before. Didn't mean that is because the competition is even greater than before, but the amount of hard work that you need to put in is the same.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, like what both of you say is that if you want to do it, you have to just do it, right? Like I believe back in the 90s, I have seen independent comic artists, who I mean, at the time without internet, they have been drawing their own comic, a few pages of comic, and they started to photocopy, right? They photocopy black and white and start stapling, and then started to distribute in the art markets and all these events. So I think
we did that in Gilamon or Gilamon.
Yes. And I think with the advancement of all these social media platforms, it makes your life so much easier. You can not constrain yourself in black and white. You can have full colors, but you can save a lot of money without printing. The platform is free for you anyway, right? So yeah. So I think let's ask the audience if they have any questions to the both of you.
Sure.
If you have questions, you can type in through Facebook.
Any questions that audience have already sent in?
No, I think everyone just like. I think Carl knew he loved the board behind you, Lefty. Yes.
Thank you, Kel. Thanks for tuning in. Kel is one of the shooting stars in Malaysia and also internationally. I mean internationally, but he's a Malaysian. His work is amazing, and I'm glad that he is doing comics now, even though it's a tough job. But it's been rewarding for him, I believe, and he's such a nice young man who is really good at his work, really good at his trade. You guys should check out Kale's works on his page.
I've seen his work and it's really amazing. Yes, we have two questions over here. One is from Julius Lee. His question is, what's the number one mistake you see a lot when reviewing sequential portfolios?
Number one mistake. Number one mistake. I think to me is when they do not because nowadays a lot of artworks are done digitally. So sometimes when they draw, sometimes they would zoom in and zoom out to draw. So when from my experience of viewing portfolio, sometimes it's some of the artworks are inconsistent in their shapes, and some they zoom in the draw, so that when it's been zoomed out, it becomes too tiny to be seen. So to advise the people, to advise up and coming or new artists, when you draw, try not to do so much of zoom in and zoom out, which I noticed it has become a very common when I view portfolio. Anything from Eng Huat?
It's hard to really hard to answer.
Very tough question.
Quite tough.
Let's think about it and get back to you.
because he's asking the first mistake, but usually if you don't need to be like comic book artist. Like if you regular reader, if you read a lot, if you saw a beginner artist that draw comic amateur, straight away you will notice something wrong by just seeing the whole thing. Maybe it's not that mature in the paneling. In the first panel, usually, if I put it in more particularly, it will be the first panel. How do you composite the first panel or the first page? Like the editor in Japan, when they review the people's work, they usually just flip up like the early 5 pages. They will know already. Yeah.
All right. So another question from Lee Heng Kok. What are both upcoming projects, collaborative or individually?
We currently, because both of us are working on our own stuff, especially Eng Huat has got such a big project of art book illustrations.
Yeah.
And I have some little projects here and there. We do not have anything in the near future that we plan to collaborate. But because now both of us are in Penang, and we could always come up with something, especially in our Gilamon group activity, which I'm planning to do soon, and I might rope in Eng Huat to do something to have some fun with it. So it would most likely not so much of the company project just yet, but it would probably be our little Gilamon thing, our little zine. Yep. that for now.
Okay, so I think Eng Huat's line has problem, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think from another person, Fabian E.
Hey, Fabian. Fabian from Singapore.
What are your favorite indie artists or comic creators?
My favorite indie artist on offhand would be Jaime Hernandez of Love and Rockets. His work is truly amazing. You can find Love and Rockets on Fantagraphic Books. Love and Rockets is one of the pioneer indie comics which influence or impact a lot of us when we first started out. His work, his actually is the Hernandez brothers, Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez. Both they are drawing this Love and Rocket story about Mexico, the story of a community in Mexico and in the border town, and also it has a lot of strange things going on. But what I love about Jaime is the simplicity of his drawing. It's like when I see the Hellboy, I think Hellboy we can't consider as an indie already, but it's like Hellboy. The simplicity of it is such a beauty. Jaime Hernandez is also like that. Its simplicity. It's not as stylized as Hellboy, but it is truly beautiful, and how it you can see how amazing for an artist that can achieve so much with so minimal of lines and treatment. Highly recommended.
Oh, nice. So, I think Eng Huat's laptop suddenly the power cut off.
Oh no! Printed comics still relevant in Malaysia. All digital has become main platform to sell and read comics.
Okay, Eng Huat is back.
Oh, where is back with a
My
new
laptop.
layout? Huh?
Huh? No
Someone
power.
needs
My
to
laptop.
Oh, I thought someone need to work already. Okay, let me just answer this question. Printed comics is still relevant or not in Malaysia? Yes, it is still very much relevant. Even though urban people in the city, people have started reading digital comics, and comic magazine. This comic magazine is not so popular anymore. But comic book collection is still very popular. And then because in Malaysia the comic market is more on the younger audience. If you're talking about the major comics audience, it's actually the students, and many of them they still buy comic books and read and collect. You see, so yeah, comic is very much a printed book is still relevant here. It's only country like China, or probably Thailand or Thailand or some of the Southeast Asia country that digital books are more popular. Those countries when they are already used to digital books, physical books for generations, it is very hard to get rid of physical books, printed books. It is reduced now. The market is reduced, but it is still a very decent market.
What are we talking about?
Is in Malaysia? Is printed books still relevant or not in Malaysia? Or everybody is already reading digital books?
I don't know. I don't know. The digital books market here is that profitable. I don't know. Don't have that statistic. But physical book will be a luxury item. That's for sure.
Now a lot of our patterns or reading behavior would be you post up your works to be read online for free, and you at some point you collect them into a physical book, adding stuff that is not available online, and you publish it as a collection. It's more in that way for people to attract people to buy, and people are still willing to buy in that sense. So the business model of physical book changed slightly, but it is still very much alive.
Okay, great. So there's another question. Well, there are lots of questions actually. So from Farah, she is asking, what is your opinion on using comic as a medium for advocacy and activism?
Comic is a very effective media to bring your message across, regardless of what it is. So it is to me it is the friendliest medium to tell a story, to make a point. So well, if you can see, there are many. If you're talking about social issue or anything that you want people to know or to have people's attention on, it's nothing is better than a combination of words and powerful picture. So if you like a cartoonist Zuna is very good in using powerful elements in his drawing to bring out a strong message. So yeah, definitely I think comic is a very effective way to do so. And imagine if your message can be, once you draw it out, it can be like a merchandise. You can print it on T-shirt and you can have your message, whatever message that you want people to see, whether it is on which side of the fence lah. Comics is a medium, totally a effective and useful medium.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, for me, when you can express yourself in words, comment, like or dislike, then how come there's a law for using comic as a medium to express yourself? There's no rules unless people say there are. If not, try to step out from the comfort zone if you're there.
All right.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Kieran. So how do you communicate to your artists your vision if you have a story to tell?
How do I? Well, I tell them a story. Because for instance, when I was in Shanghai and I was the chief editor of the comics department, and I deal with a lot of artists. So I would either have a story, and I think maybe this artist is good at drawing this story, or I would talk to them first. I mean, we would sit down and, or not to sit down, because when I was in Shanghai, I worked a lot with Malaysia or Indonesia or other countries' artists. So we would have online discussion and a lot of things written down, a whole list of things. Communication is very important. and you also need to understand the artist coming from his side in order for the story to make sense. So, well, a lot of communication going on, but you need to tell a good story that would make the artist, to inspire the artist first before you could bring it or to attract the audience. The artist, if he's inspired by a story, then he will do a good job in bringing the story out with your drawing, with his or her drawing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't really deal with a lot of artists, so I think as Julian said, I think probably it's the same.
Okay, so the next one from Donna. Donna is our lecturer in Equator. So, so her question is that with this multicultural country, which we have a lot of languages in Malaysia, so which is the preferred language by audience or readers? Does it work to have multi-language use in the comic?
Very good question, very relevant, and it has, if you're talking about one language that is the best to use, there's no straight answer to this, but I can understand from the experience that of my work with Gempak Stars for the many years that I'm working there. I think in Malaysia culture is very unique. So we need we need comic book coming out with, if you want to reach out to the most audience, you need the comic book to have at least in 2 languages. That means 2 versions. Not to say one book that has 2 languages in it. That would make it very hard to read. Unless it is like it's like a serious manual book, or it's educational book, then it may work. But if you're talking about leisure reading, normally it comes in languages. And as I say, different languages, it would be in Bahasa Malaysia first, because that would be the biggest audience, and sometimes it's either in English or in Mandarin, because we have the Mandarin market to tackle. So yeah, it comes in different languages actually.
I don't have an answer for that.
Because this is a very editorial questions so you don't have to worry about it. You are the master artist. You don't have to worry about all this.
Yeah. So the next questions from Liu Yongjie. What's the difference of the comic market between Western China and Malaysia?
What's the difference?
So vast.
Well,
the question is so vast.
It's like between football, swimming, and and mountain climbing. Yeah, because U.S. market is okay. Let's do a very quick one. The U.S. market is, if you're talking about the mainstream, U.S. market is mainly still very superhero centric, not superhero centric, and China is very manga-ish, fantasy, and also more. Of course, the shoujo shonen type is very popular, and added in a lot of supernatural elements, romantic, supernatural, or some horror. That's more on the China side. Malaysia, again, is very interesting, because Malaysia, we have different races and different each race has got their preferred topic. So I think the Chinese is more, of course, still very much closer to the manga type of story, and the Malay market, even though they are also, a lot of them are now very acceptance of the manga culture, and a lot of their local story have very much manga treatment, which is very cute and nice, but with very local character in it. But then the Malay culture has got a very unique section is on the comic lawak. That means is the funny comics, slapstick humor, and funny four panels or 6 panels, that kind of story. It is still very popular, light-hearted, just giggle and laughing. It still works.
If you compare these three markets, actually Malaysia isn't quite at the same league. Like US and China, they are content provider. Malaysia is content observer. Like if you look at the stuff we import in, we usually, because our market is that limited, not that big. So let's say car industry or restaurant, fast food restaurant or sport, we only import the top 5 or the most selling brand in the world. We cannot support brands that are maybe not that good or how do you say that? Not in the top 10 list. There's no market in here. So what happened is, and because we only import the best of the best, so it become the reader here or somewhat become a spoiler. They only want to read the best, the best story, the best art. Everything is the best. So at this point, after a while, for the creator local creator will be very hard for them to produce stuff to impress the viewer here. So what they do is they only can export their stuff outside of Malaysia into US and China. That's the reality.
Okay, so I think we will just pick 2 more questions from what they have already asked. So from Vincent, while executing your drawing, comics or characters between traditional and digital media tools, which one do you prefer or more inclined to? I think he's asking, you prefer the traditional or more to a digital media tool?
I'm still the old school guy. I would digital tools to me is a complement. So what I did is I still, because I love the feeling of pen and paper, or pencil and paper, the texture, and having to have your original artwork, that kind of feeling. So I still stick to drawing on paper, and then I would like I said, the complement of digital technology would be when I scan in, I would do some touching up or here and there, and I would apply layers of color in the computer using various programs. But generally, I still use very basic manual tools to do my drawing.
Yeah. Me also 50-50. I also draw on paper using pen, pencil, and then
Mm.
color-wise in Photoshop. Commercially, there's no better way than Photoshop. But if artists really want to learn, but first I did not recommend for beginner to go straight into Photoshop coloring, because in even though traditional drawing method, they have a lot of obstacle that you need to face. The one and foremost, the biggest one is you cannot undo whatever you wanna.
That's right.
So that's a very good exercise for you to learn. You have to, if you want to do things fast, you can't keep undoing it. You need to think
Mm.
before you do anything. You need to plan all your drawing, composition, and if you can, color and background, all that stuff as complete as possible for you to move faster. So for me, if can choose, if there are market for traditional drawing, I will choose traditional drawing.
Mm. Sometimes we use we using digital tools or technology to help us is mainly for commercial reasons, because sometimes we need to get it done at a certain time, at a certain point of time, and for production wise, sometimes it is more it is more practical to use the digital tools to help us. So it depends on how it could help us. We pick and choose to use them. So yeah.
Okay, so from Arya, is it a must to become fluid with style when you are working as a comic book artist?
Fluid in style. Oh yes. Searching for a style is it takes time. Searching for your own style, it will take some time. But eventually you would reach them, and it's like anything else. You need a style that people can recognize, that when they see this artwork, they immediately know, this is Eng Huat's work. This is Jim Lee's work, or this is Otomo's work. So you need to have a style. That is definitely, is everybody long to have their own style, even though there is no shortcut. You have to explore until you reach the state where eventually you see your own style, your own voice that will come out.
I think the word is, you can't create style is not a thing that you want to plan. You can't say, oh, okay, I need to draw my figure all with certain way. Style is like Julian say, it will develop in time. After you cross every obstacle in your process of doing work, drawing, that means that you have an accurate anatomy, good composition, and good lining, all those fundamental stuff. And then you will see what your style really is. The style is like carving a sculpture. the more you're skillful, the more, after a while it will reveal itself.
Yeah, that's you can't get any better explanation than that. And that comes from someone who has reached a stage where he has traveled all that road. That's how he could explain that.
It's very painful.
Painful. Very painful road.
Yeah, you need to you can't avoid the obstacle means pain. You have to you need to have a very strong stomach. Not saying that you will overcome it. You just need to suffer it. After a while, you will used to it.
Yeah. The more you're trying to look for shortcut, the longer it will take for you to get to your style.
Yeah. There's no shortcut actually. There's no shortcut of learning stuff.
True. Okay, the last questions. Is there a schedule or deadline for you guys to finish up either a chapter or a whole book or a cover for comic?
There always is.
Is this the question by?
Yes. Yeah, Shu Sing.
About scheduling, right?
Yeah, yes. Deadline, scheduling.
Oh, it depends on the publisher actually. Or if you're talking about web comics, it's like if you are committed to a schedule, then a web comic schedule is very much different from publication schedule. And publication schedule, it depends on different publishers has their own schedule. So there's always schedule. So being a comic book artist, scheduling is very crucial. So you need to plan your time. For instance, if you are talking about publishers, if you are very dependable, no matter you are in Malaysia or you are working for Marvel or DC, if you are a dependable guy, people will always come to you. People will always accept your work because they have a schedule to follow for publisher. And for like a web comics, because you need that is between you and your audience, and also with the web platform. Because if you suka come up one week, one episode, and then after 3 weeks also never come out, and the next episode, people will start to read other works already. So scheduling on time, committed to it, is always crucial as a comic book artist.
Yeah.
As a comic book
in the market, deadline scheduling will be at the top of the list. Second will be your style and all that.
Yeah.
Actually, when we're talking obstacle of drawing, deadline also is very crucial in your development into a good artist. The deadline usually, the function of deadline can be a thing that you will prioritize what is the important things and try to skip or delete all the unnecessary stuff that in a drawing or in a story.
Yeah, that's something also that while Eng Huat and I was in Shanghai, there's constantly something that we are trying to figure out or trying to look into how to work within a certain time to come out to produce work that is still in good quality. And Eng Huat is really superb in it. The way I can see how he works he can produce works that is still very good and very amazing, but still within a short time. But again, it is hard work, guys. It's not magic. But discipline, yes, discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say consistency, right? You have to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
Stop watching too much TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say thank you for watching. I think it's quite a very interesting session because it's supposed to be 1 hour and it's now 1.5 hours. Yeah, so thank you to Lefty and Eng Huat for
Thank you.
spending your evening with us. Right, so next week you can tune in again on the same day and same time. Next week we will be talking to a filmmaker called David Tian. So he'll be sharing with you about his journey from as a photographer to a film maker. All right, so good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone,
See you.
for
Bye-bye.
who to the talk. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
See you.